Hi, guys. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of The Non-Typical Project. Today's episode is sponsored by Denny Dennis Sporting Goods. They're my local hometown archery shop that I've been going to for years. They've got top-of-the-line gear and even better people. So if you ever find yourself in the St. Louis, Missouri, or surrounding areas, be sure to swing on in, check them out, and tell them I sent you. Especially if you've got a blown-up compound or crossbow, their archery techs absolutely love that kind of work. So without any further ado, let's get straight into the episode.
Anything we good?
Nah, everything looks good, man.
Perfect.
All right, so we're back again with another podcast. I think this episode is going to be, looks like episode 20. So episode 20 of the Non-Typical Project, and I've got Mr. Josh Trolinger on. Josh is a father. He is a husband. He is some people would call him a research junkie. So we're going to be talking about that. He's super involved in the archery, hunting, outdoor sports kind of industry as a whole and in general. And he's definitely somebody I'm excited to have on. So Josh, thanks so much for coming on today, and we're gonna get to talking about all this good stuff.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I can't wait to see what rabbit hole we dive into in the middle of this thing. So it's gonna be fun.
We're gonna get into all of them, man. But one thing that I've been like harping on lately on the podcast, and that I've been all excited about, I have a really strong opinion about when the preseason starts for bow hunting. And for me, I'm always a guy that like my season never ends. As soon as hunting season's over, I'm shed hunting. I'm scouting out new properties. I'm dropping pins on Onyx for new places to go. This year, I've been applying for my out-of-state draws and all that stuff. And I always key in on turkey season as the time of year that guys need to be getting in their bowstrings, getting new arrows set up, getting new gear, whatever they're going to get. That way it gives you that whole summertime to practice with that gear and get good with it. So getting into that stuff, is there anything that you've got going on that like this time of year or kind of early in the summer that you're specifically taking a look at trying to get ready for deer season?
So for this year, it's probably the first year where I've really never put my hunting bow down. From a target standpoint, like January rolls around and we're already thinking about Foley. We're thinking about the ASAs coming up. And I kind of took a hiatus this year. I got a lot going on with the AMA, which is the Alliance of Missouri Archers, and we're putting on a lot of competitions throughout the year, both 3D, indoor, outdoor, NFAA, you name it. And normally this time of year, I'm slinging target arrows and flying with target bows. But with some of the stuff we've had going on and just gearing up for turkey season, it's the first time that I probably haven't ever put my hunting bow down. And for me, that's kind of a rarity because normally it's by February 1st, I'm shooting a target bow and I don't pick my hunting bow back up until end of July, first part of August. And
Yeah.
some people look at that and say, well, how are you ready? And it's like, well, if you realize how many arrows we shoot for target archery and how much practice that involves, there's never a loss of shooting shape. There's never a loss of um, being sharp from the archery standpoint. But this year, like I've been super dedicated to, I'm going to play with some new Victory arrows this year. I'm going to make sure that my bow is set up and rocking. I've got several tournaments that I'm going to go to where I'm actually shooting my hunting bow and a hunting setup. So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing this year that's the norm. Um, but it's also kind of fun because it's something a little different. And I've still got some target stuff that I'm going to go to throughout the year. But I just, as you know, man, I got a soon to be 4-year-old and a 6-year-old at home. And between soccer and work, travel life, the things that I got going on, it was like, now I got to make a decision. Do I want to spend my time away hunting or do I want to spend my time away chasing a ASA trail or a target trail? And I've kind of gotten to where I like the critters more than I like that foam that doesn't move. So, still love it, still want to compete and do it, but I'm just excited this year to keep the hunting bow rocking and see what comes up.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something we've talked about, before on the podcast is kind of that way you distribute your time, right? Because
Yeah.
bow hunting as a whole, archery, all that stuff, that can be a year-long endeavor every single year if you really want it to be. And I've gotten to the point where I've been wanting to chase more ASAs, but also at the same time, this next season is gonna be my first season chasing out of state tags. So I'm now at a crossroads of, all right, which ASA events can I make it to and which states can I make it to if I do draw, and trying to find that balance. And it can be tough to do. And I'm definitely putting more emphasis on the hunts than I am on the ASA trail, unfortunately, as much as I love it. But that's just where I want to dedicate that time.
Oh,
But I gotta
absolutely.
ask you, with we were coming off of ATA back in February, I believe. We had I was with you over at the Show Me Whitetails Expo, and there's a bunch of great vendors out there too. Uh, the amount of new products coming out and hitting the market, and they're all most of them are launched already. I'm sure we're gonna have some more before the season starts. Is there anything in particular that caught your eye, got you excited, and you said that this is going to change the way that I'm going to be hunting this next season or anything else? Uh, because I've got a couple that I've been super excited for and that I think are just over the moon awesome. But you've got such a great relationship. You're coming from a really unique standpoint where you have a great relationship with a lot of these companies in the industry. So is there anything you notice that you're like, this is it? We've got to, I'm got to buckle down on this product or that thing for my next season here. All good.
Yeah. Um, I'm products that are new. So I'm not going to lie. I'm already thinking about the products that I'm going to use in the next 4 weeks from a turkey standpoint. And I'm, I am a picky person when it comes to broadheads. I've had my fair share of failures, my fair share of, oh, this is a great thing. And then it turns out to be a terrible idea. And I'm excited to actually play with the bowhunter turkey head. So I will be
Yeah.
trying to decapitate a turkey in the next couple of weeks. Um, I've also got the new G5, whatever they call it. So I'm going to do a comparison of the two to try to see which one I think is more accurate or which one I think is easier to, tote around. And if anybody's done any research, we already know some of those questions will be answered pretty easily just in the difference in design. But from a fall standpoint, man, it's tough because well enough, and you've heard others that we're friends with say I'm a gear junkie, and
Yeah.
I there's not much on the market that has been released or that is available that I probably haven't owned or bought
Mhm.
and resold and played with, or companies have sent me to test and play around with to see, because I'm not the normal guy. Like, most of this stuff is designed for a 6 foot, 160 to 180 pound guy. And at
Yeah.
6'4", pushing 300, it's kind of like most people are not thinking about someone that size being agile and mobile and climbing trees and loving to sit in the saddle. And so, um, at the show that you're talking about, we got to see out on a limb drop a new product that nobody's really done. And that's, he's got this, I call it a quad pod, because most people have a tripod, and he's actually got this four-legged saddle post
I
slash
remember this.
seat, all this stuff. And so as soon as I saw it, and I've seen it in the build stage prior to coming to that show, I got to see behind the scenes what he was working on, and I thought, I don't really know about this. And then when I saw it in person and I saw Chad bounce around on it at 265, 280, and actually got to climb up it myself, which I looked like a monkey doing, what, to a football until I figured out how to get in it. Um, I, I immediately went, wow, this is something different. It's something that nobody else has. And my first thought went to cedar thickets and hard transition edges that are rushy, but not. hardwoods and they don't have, good opportunities for trees. And I hate ground blinds. Like, I'm not going to lie. I hunt out of
Yeah,
them when they're a necessity. I absolutely cannot stand sitting in them because I don't like the muffling from the noise and the things I can't hear. I also don't like how they echo. So what I do inside seems to be louder than what it really is. So being a little OCD, it drives me nuts listening to the noises that I make. But I also don't like the diminished viewing that you get when you're in a ground blind. It's like I
sure.
love being in the elements. I love a 360-degree peak anywhere that I want, and I don't feel like you get that in a ground blind. So seeing this opportunity, it really made me go, wow, this product could work in these hard transitions. It can work in these super dense areas where I would rather be vertical than be in a ground blind. And I've never been a person that likes the tripod. I've tried them, I've got one, but I just feel like they stick out like a sore thumb. For a rifle hunter, they're great, but for a bow hunter that wants to get close to something, it's it's not my cup of tea. And so this thing's really kind of intrigued my curiosity of, can I make this work? Can I find a way to set this up in a few unique areas that I have, especially in Kansas? Um, I've got a couple farms in Missouri where I've got really dense edges that it's so briary and so cedar laden that I don't have the ability to get in a tree without trimming a cedar out. And I think you'll hide better with that thing and not changing the foliage than if you went in there and cut a hole out of a cedar tree. I think that will stand out a lot more. So that product in particular has got me um, pretty spun up. I'm excited to get my hands on one and play with one. I'm sure Matt will work with me and get me something to test and try out. Um, I love the fact that I gave him some feedback after the show about things that I saw that I didn't like, or some things that I thought could be a liability hazard. Like, for instance, how the feet actually level the unit out. The posts were exposed. And so all I could think of is a clumsy person climbing up it, not knowing how to get up it, falls over and falls on that object. It could impale them. And he immediately went in and said, love it. And 2 days later, sent me a video with the legs completely changed to where they're
That's
all
awesome.
interior of the unit right now. So, um, there's, some of the new pockets and stuff that came out from Latitude. Um, I love their saddles. I think they build the best mobile gear that's out there as far as that goes. But I haven't been in love with the new pockets. And so I'm thinking that some of the stretch pocket or um, some of the stuff that they're changing around might be a little better for me, just because I'm a one sticker majority of the time, or even if I'm not, I'm a repeller. So I carry way more rope than what normally fits in a pouch. So I love that. I picked up a 33 at the end of the season. And so I'm excited to do some backpacking type hunts where you're going deep with a lot on your back. And I think that pack is very unique and gives you a very streamlined, but yet a whole lot of real estate that you can put stuff in and still be comfortable. And me being a bigger guy, broader shouldered, everything else, like, I have struggled. I've bought every brand pack on the market, and I haven't found one that didn't pinch my shoulders or hurt my traps or something of that nature. And the design that they put into their suspension system of those three packs just knocked it out of the park, because that floating suspension allows, no matter if you're skinny, broad, thick chested, narrow, whatever, like, it sits and fits perfectly and you don't get all the pinch. So I'm excited to pack something out with one of those things and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, that's off the top of my head. Um, from a gear standpoint, that would be it. I will say I have both the new Bowtech Alliance bows, and um, I set the 30, the short one, the 30 and a half. I set it up for turkeys this year, and I'm a 32
Yeah.
inch draw, and it doesn't go to 32, but I made small little tweaks and it goes to 32 now. And it is ridiculously comfortable to shoot. So I've been toting it, trying to smash a turkey in Missouri. So I'm excited about that. And then shooting an A33, I've got it to where I started setting it up now, kind of getting it ready for season. And I don't know, man. I just got back from the factory like 2 weeks ago, I think. I was out there for business and I went to the factory and so kind of got the inside scoop of some of the stuff going on and got to see, all the bows that are in works and how they're built and all the rest of that. And man, that new riser and the new drive system for the cams and everything else, like I don't think there's a better bow on the market. And I'm excited to see what I can do with that thing this fall.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I and you hit on a couple things there too that like piqued my interest. First off, the quad pod from Out on a Limb. That is one of the most wild things I've ever seen. And I think
Yep.
it has its place for sure. And when I saw it, I'm like, I don't know how it would work for me.
Yep.
But for somebody that's in the right area, that's got a spot where they just can't get a tree to work, but they know they want to be there and they can go
Yep.
set that thing up, that can be a really wicked solution. And from what I heard from a couple guys out there is that they've got some pretty cool solutions for brushing it in too and really making it, a lot more of a not noticeable profile. So I think it's one of those things that, man, if you've got the right areas for it, it could be super killer. For me, I'm running and gunning on public, and with that being said, you mentioned the Ranger 33 pack. I've been running the 22, and that pack's been a lifesaver for me. I I self film my hunts. I'll go out and film for other people, and I can fit my camera. I can fit the camera arm. I can get all four
Yeah.
climbing sticks and my platform all strapped into that thing and be good to go. And it's been a massive lifesaver for my back too. That along with the Method 3. Those two things,
Yep.
I've got a bad lower back and they've made hunting so much more enjoyable for me on those sits where I remember a year or two ago they were a lot less enjoyable, and I've struggled with hip pinch from so many different saddles and the Method 3 took that away. And now what I've gotten even more excited for was the Latitude Praxis pack, especially getting to take a look at it now.
Yep.
That thing has my interest to no end. I'm gonna be picking one up before season starts. And I had this question, I haven't gotten it answered yet, and I don't have the experience to know. But I plan on going on a mule deer hunt this year. I have no idea if it can pack a mule deer out. I know it is definitely designed to be able to pack a whitetail out. But I guess we're gonna find out. If nobody else has answered it yet, I'm gonna try to because I'm planning on going on my first mule deer hunt this year. So if all goes well, I'll be putting that to the test. But I mean, it's a super wicked whitetail frame pack, and
Yep.
man, it fits right in line with the Ranger series as far as like how comfortable it is and how much you're able to customize it. And man, I've been over the moon excited about getting my hands on that and kind of getting kicked off with all that stuff. But the mobile hunting side of things, to the side, there was a lot of really cool stuff there, and the Show Me Whitetails Expo was a really great event in general. I mean, we got to see a lot of different vendors there and a lot of cool products. And another thing I wanted to kind of get into there was the Bow Hunting League had a booth there, and a couple guys out, yourself included. Uh, on that line, maybe explain a little bit for people that might not know what your role is in the bow hunting league and what it is and what you guys are doing, because that's something that I should be on a team going into this next season, and it's a pretty cool deal you guys got going on.
Yeah. So um, the originator, Ben Harrison, um, started this competition basically with his buddies. And it's had a couple different names and then it morphed into the Bow Hunting League. And essentially, it is the nation's largest free to the participant bow hunting competition. Um, it's three-man teams. You can live anywhere. You don't have to be in the same state. The cool part is it's really focused on whitetails. I mean, there's obviously in the past there's been a spin-off to elk season. There's been mule deer or coos or Blacktail, anything else has been allowed to be checked in and be a part of the total inches for a team. There were caveats, so there was additives to the coos and the blacktail and the stuff that is typically a lot smaller than a whitetail, and then there was also deductions to the mule deer. And so what it's allowed us to do now is have camaraderie, have a fun way for people to network and compete without spending a bunch of money breaking the bank or having to um, even really know who your partners are. I mean, you can find two random guys, and we have people all the time that fill out the form when we start. I think it's around June 30th is when we start, or June 1st when we start signups, and we'll have people all the time say, "I want to get involved, but I don't have a partner, I don't have a team, like whatever." And we just pair people together. And um, my role is I kind of help on the backside of things with Ben, and then I run the podcast for the Bowhunter League, and um, spend a lot of time what I call check station corner, and that is talking to those that are willing to tell the story and let them literally, like we're sitting on a tailgate after a harvest, sit around and talk about the success, talk about the tips, tricks, tactics, things that you went through to be successful, and just relive that moment. And I think that for me, it's been fun. You know well enough now, starting this podcast and doing what you're doing, that it's a daunting task, and people don't see when you're trying to build something out, finding the right people, getting the credibility for someone to actually want to sit down and talk with you, let alone have a good enough personality that people feel comfortable. Sometimes people just don't, when they don't know you or they have never met you, to like sit down face to face on a computer or even in person and tell a story. Like, it's one thing when we can do it as buddies and share that moment, but when you do it with a stranger, everything's got to click. And so it's
Yeah.
been fun for me because I've been able to bring stories out of people. I've been able to make people feel comfortable enough to relive that moment. And dude, it's been fun because I get to talk deer hunting. Um, we're getting to talk success because that's the whole point of what we're doing for those episodes. And I get to relive moments with people that it's almost to a point that once you understand the questioning and you understand the personality type to get people to open up, it becomes something that I have people when I'm done go, holy cow, dude, like that was great. Like I told you that story completely different than I've told everybody else. And it felt so good. And it was, and I get to feel like I'm part of it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. And to those that have never been a part of it, to yourself, last year you tried to get on a team and it just didn't work out. And this year you're definitely going to get on one. It's just fun, man. It's like people want to think that it's a competition about money or about, oh, you have to be a big buck killer. No, man, it's about
No.
finding people with like-minded attitudes to just do exactly what we're doing on the podcast, relive the hunt, share your successes. And you know what, if all three of you kill a deer, who knows what will come out of it. And if only one of you do, I mean, the year that I won the public land side of things, Hunter killed, and I don't think Jeff killed. I mean, it was like a give and take. And the other years, those two have harvested, and I haven't. I think in 4 years of us being on the same team, there's been one year that all three of us have actually tagged a deer at the same time. So I mean, it's just a lot of fun, and you don't have to, kill the biggest deer. You don't have to kill the biggest amount of inches. You don't have to be some stellar hunter. It's just it's a fun place to compete. It's a great place to um, make connections and swap hunts and swap areas to go do stuff together. And I mean, there's not a lot of people that have made relationships with people they didn't know, and now they're traveling to other states and doing other things. So it's a cool thing to do, and it's a great way to give back to the industry and the hunting groups as a whole, and do it in a fun way where we get to gig each other a little bit about who's the best or who's not, but at the same time, just enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. A bunch of like minded guys. And There's a lot of fun that, like, just being in the group without actually being in a team. I mean, I'll sit there and stalk it during hunting season because you get to see a bunch of people having great success, but you also get to see all the little, uh, uh, banter back and forth between
Well,
teams and between different guys saying stuff. And I mean, it's a really fun, cool environment that I've been excited to get involved in, this upcoming season.
and it's
And
a safe
man,
environment. I hate saying that and using that
yeah,
terminology, but we just don't tolerate crap. Like, we're not going to let people talk down to each other. We're not going to let people diminish your success based on inches or how you killed it or whatever. As long as it's a bow and not a crossbow, and you went out and had a great time doing it, like, we're gonna live that moment with you and commend you for the time you spent. Because at the end of the day, like, bow hunters are still a very small percentage of hunters out there that actually go get something done. So if we can grow
absolutely.
that and help build that camaraderie, then it's worth all the fun.
Absolutely, and I mean, it's just it's a cool way to see too, like other states, other people hunt in different ways, and kind of if you spend enough time looking around at different posts and different people in there that are active, you might learn a thing or two. I mean, you're kind of bound to, and
Yeah,
so
for
that's always
sure.
been the cool side of it for me too. And man, I think it's something really interesting and something that gives you, if nothing else, maybe you're not a guy that's super focused on the inches of the deer you kill or whatever. It gives you something to get involved in. I mean, at a minimum. So
Yep.
definitely excited for this upcoming season with it. But with this upcoming season, I kind of had this bookmarked that I wanted to ask you in your opinion on.
Okay.
So, as somebody that you've hunted a couple different states, you've been around, you've got a wall full of freaking fantastic animals behind you. Um, I had this pop in my head a week or two ago when we first started talking about doing this, and I'm like, man, I wonder what Josh thinks. So I've been avoiding asking you so we can talk about it here. So on topic with the bow hunting league, a lot of those guys travel to different states and they'll tag multiple bucks throughout the season. I mean, I think the King of Tines this year, how many different states were involved in the bucks
Six,
taken?
five. So
5, 6 different
five.
states?
There was 5 bucks, and I want to say 4 states because I think
Yeah,
one of them I killed in the same state. But then I got somebody like Chad Hepner who just missed out, and he went to 9 states, I think,
9
and
states.
killed
Yeah,
5 or 6 deer and missed it by a few inches. So yeah,
yeah. Yeah, so you got a lot of guys in that group that travel hunt a lot, and that's a world that's
yep.
new to me. Like I'm just now dipping my toes in the water for this upcoming season. The one thing that's kept me away from going to other states for so long is, man, I was in high school, then college, and broke college kid. I'm not coughing up the money to go to different states. And so now this year is the first year where I think I'm going to be in a position where I can start getting out and traveling. This
Sweet.
year is also the year where Missouri's deciding to change some stuff up or potentially change some stuff up. Talking about increasing non-resident, license and tag fees and introducing a new transport license kind of deal. The discussion of a draw has been brought up. And from somebody who hasn't travel hunted before, my immediate reaction was, well, yeah, Missouri's a great state for whitetail. And if I go to any of my neighbors, any neighboring states, they're all twice as expensive as we are. And so it feels like
Yep.
Missouri, as somebody that's been a Missouri hunter, Missouri resident for this long, hasn't left the state to hunt. I'm like, yeah, I mean, everywhere else is double our price. Why are we this cheap? Kind of what's your take on that stuff? Maybe some insight on how that all could work and where that goes, because it is a slippery slope too. I see the other side where it's a slippery slope of limiting access and a bunch of other things. So where do you kind of stand on that stuff, or do you have some insight that maybe pushes me one direction or another?
Man, that's probably the toughest question you're going to ask me out of this entire podcast.
I could
And
imagine. I could imagine.
and I will say this, as tongue in cheek as possible.
Yeah,
Missouri is the best state for whitetail across the country. This is my personal opinion, and I have
yeah,
friends that work for the NDC. And when they hear this, they're going to be mad at me for saying this. We are the worst managed state in the hunting industry. And I say that from a standpoint of I don't even want to go down the path of CWD and EHD and all the things that affect or could affect or are a hot topic because nothing that I say is anyone going to agree with, or the ones that do will love it, and the ones that don't call me a tin hat wearing whatever. But from a standpoint of you just look at the state and you talk about four topics: diversity, access to land, quality, and availability of tags. If you just look at those four things, right? Missouri is likely the most diverse state from north to south, east to west of any opportunity out there. When you look at the water and tributary systems that feed the agriculture across the state, you don't find that in Kansas. You don't find that in Iowa. Once you get far from the Mississippi and Illinois, you don't find it. The mountainous area of Arkansas and the Plains Mountains, as I would call them, of Oklahoma, you don't have any of that. So if you just look at the show me state and you look at what's there from rivers, streams, lakes, major rivers with the Missouri, the Osage, um, the Mississippi, the 11 point down south, like you start to dissect the diversity of property that's out there. Nothing else compares. Why is that important? Because that diversity means that it feeds animals much more complex than just an agricultural state or just a mountain state or just a timber state. So the diversity alone sets Missouri apart. When you look at quality of animals, when you dive into many states, um, there are pockets, whether we're talking Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, wherever, there are pockets that hold great deer. And then there are pockets that have, one, let's just call them Pope and Young down. So the typical 2 to 3 year old, 100 to 140 inch deer. There are deer in the southern part of Missouri, excluding the boot heel. And there's even some in the boot heel that get killed every year that are pushing 200 inches.
Yeah.
There are deer south of Missouri, if you divide the state in half, um, that probably never see a human or die because of the topography, uh, with very limited interaction to humans. Then you go north, and if you can find a piece of private that's not leased and not guided on, where there's diverse agriculture, water, timber, uh, CRP, all the rest of that stuff, there's a 200 kill in every county. So when you start picking apart the quality of animals in Missouri, there's a reason that residents and people from pick a state come here. And that's because of the third point, access. You have access across the entire state. Like when you look at Kansas, which I'm very familiar with, if it wasn't for the WEHA program in Kansas, access to federal and state lands would be very pocketed around most of the metropolitan cities. They are not as diverse across the state as what you see in Missouri. Pick a county in Missouri, and there's likely an NBC piece of ground. If there's not,
100%.
there's national forest. If there's not,
Federal
there's
ground of
Corps of
some kind.
Engineers. It's just the
Yeah.
unbelievable amount of access, which is great because from a resident standpoint, I can drive 30 minutes in any direction and I can be on something that's going to hold quality deer. But what does that do? Well, it draws people from other states because throw a dart at the map and you can go find a place and kill a Pope and Young deer in this state.
Yeah.
Now, what sucks with all of this is that you can have the diversity of topography and agriculture and habitat. You can have everything that you want from the quality standpoint. You can have all of the access standpoint. But if we don't manage the influx of people and we don't manage the influx of how deer are killed, 20 years ago, or I'll just back up exactly 30 years ago, I was able to hunt when I was 9 years old because I went and passed all of my hunter safety course test. After that season, Missouri said, nope, you got to be 12 years old and have everything else. You can't hunt until you're that age. Well, the next 2 years I set out, couldn't hunt. So then I turned 12 and I can finally hunt again. Well, now you can be 6 years old with a mentor and go hunt.
Yep.
That's great. I mean, I just took my daughter and killed her first turkey. But what else does that mean? That means that there are an influx of tags that can be sold to both residents and non-residents because now kids can come here and I'm all for it. I think every kid should have every opportunity to do whatever they want, however they want. But when you face the facts of laws and nature, there are dads out there that will get some kid a tag and utilize it for himself. Is it
Absolutely.
right? No, it's not. But it's happening. And anybody that doesn't think that it is blind. And so now when you start looking at cost and you start looking at all the rest of this stuff, we have what could be the best state in the nation for whitetail and for many other species of animals because of all the things we just mentioned. But we've allowed people to come in for your point half of what you can go to any of the other big name states. We've allowed them to buy it over the counter. We have allowed them unlimited access to all the public lands because they are public lands. But what that's done is it's drove up the ability to, or really made it hard for people to get private access because guides have taken over in the northern half of the state. It's also increased people's fear of liability to allow you to hunt without leasing it. So now, when your public lands have become severely crowded, you're losing hunters. You're losing people that want to go hunt those properties because one of my most favorite places to hunt, and my friends hunt it all the time, and I grew up next to it as a kid. I can promise you from mid October through rifle season, because it's an archery only place, that I can pull in a parking lot and there will be trucks from Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, New York, Minnesota, Michigan, some of them with trailer loads of e-bikes.
Yeah.
Find a place that you can go because the old saying of I'll just go further than that guy, and it doesn't happen anymore. There is no I can go further than. It's
No.
can I find an area that is not accessibly easy, or it's not something that people, it's not the norm where everybody thinks a big
Overlooked
deer is
or
going to, yeah. And
yeah.
those places are becoming harder too. So I have a toss up because I travel and I hunt other states. So I
Sure.
appreciate the ability to do that. I believe that non residents should have the ability to come to our state and do the same thing. I
Agreed.
don't disagree with that one bit. What I disagree with is the cost. And they'll say, well, if we do that and we raise the price, we'll lose half the hunters. Good. That means you're going to make the same amount of money on half the tags,
Yeah.
and it's going to increase the quality of deer because we have the ability to have the highest quality. But again, it's in pockets. And it's because our rifle season's in the middle of the rut. The tags are over the counter. Anybody from anywhere can come at no reserve, no point, no draw, no whatever. And it's just made it extremely difficult. So I'm excited to see um, the changes that are coming. I think that it's a step in the right direction. I think it's far from where it needs to be. Um, I've always been a proponent that said why don't we, as one of the highest sought after states, when you look at the amount of tags given, the amount of opportunity there, why don't we just charge a non-resident what they charge us to go to their state?
Yeah, reciprocal pricing.
Yep.
And I'll go as far as to say this, like, I first wanted to go out of state early in college. That was the first time where I was like, "Man, I wanna go somewhere else." And there was a point that I got to where I was like, I feel like my hunting season would be cheaper and easier to manage if I lived anywhere other than here. You know, like if I lived and like any and it was so frustrating because I'm like, man, like these are border states. Like if I take a wrong turn coming home from work, I'll be in Illinois. That's all it takes. One wrong
Yep.
turn in 5 minutes and I'll be in Illinois.
Yep.
But if I live in Illinois and just if I decide to just move 20 minutes away and then, drive to Missouri for work, I'll just go rent an apartment in Illinois. And I'll live in Illinois and come to Missouri for work, and my hunting season will be cheaper.
Yep.
Same thing for, funny enough, Arkansas. Arkansas is more expensive to go hunt out of state, as a non resident. Oklahoma, significantly more expensive. Kansas, we have a draw and it's more expensive.
Yep.
Iowa, don't even get me started. That's a hard draw process and it's more expensive. So all of our
I'm
neighbor
sitting on
states,
5 points.
yeah. And so I'm sitting there and
Yeah.
I'm like, man, like if I lived anywhere other than Missouri, it'd be cheaper for me to hunt my home state and then come to Missouri. But I can't, I can't wrap my head around it. And kind of to your point, like, man, I wish we'll get back to gear. I'm making that a bookmark here, but I got to talk about
Yep.
this because it is all and it's becoming more evident to me as I try to go out of state is I can't wrap my head around why we've been this cheap for this long. And don't get me wrong, I've made friends with guys that I've met out on public land from out of state, and most of the guys I meet from out of state are really great guys. And I mean,
They're great.
you meet bow
100%.
hunters and automatically you have something to relate to with them. But I can't help but to sit there and think like, I just want it to be a level playing field if nothing else. If I have to pay $700 to go out of state somewhere, can somebody pay $700 to come here? Like why
Yep.
are we the discount state? That's kind of where my head has gone to on a lot of it. And
There's been
you know,
a topic talked about for as long as I can remember, and I've heard it from people um, that have worked for the MDC. I've heard it from people that just are somehow involved, whether it's QDMA or Whitetails or Ducks Unlimited, just pick an organization. And then I've heard it from several people that just really don't have any background to, talk on it. And I'm not saying that I do because I don't. It's all the stuff that I've heard growing up is that it's been insurance and revenue. And when you look at the amount of revenue that is generated by out of state licenses, tags, not just deer, turkey, small game, upland birds, ducks, and waterfowl. Like there's a whole nother side to this state. I mean, when you look at the Northwest, Kansas City area up to the Iowa Nebraska borders, or you look across the Boot Hill, the two different flyways that we have in the state of Missouri, there's a ton of people that come to this state to waterfowl hunt. Um, and that's always been my gripe is if we are level when it comes to out of state turkeys and out of state waterfowl, why are we so disparaging when it comes to deer? The
yeah,
number one thing that people travel for outside of fishing and waterfowl is to deer hunt. And why, when you look at everything across the board, we are equivalent for an out of state license except that. And I think that it comes down to many, many years ago, decades ago, we probably had one of the most thriving populations and we didn't have the best way to manage it. And it just became an opportunity that we had to move so many of those. And now, when you look at the statistics, insurance is still driving a desire to take more animals out of um, the landscape. And to say, for someone to sit and say that that's not true is such a lying fallacy that I can't say otherwise. And the only reason I say that is because there's a city not far from here that we both know about that are paying out of state group to come in
I was gonna bring this up. Yeah,
and harvest animals. Why? For
yeah.
insurance, because of the reasons of vehicular accidents, for destruction of the property. Pick your topic. They're bringing them in here for that reason.
And paying them exorbitant amounts of taxpayer
Exorbitant,
money. By
thousand
the way,
dollar deer.
un
I mean,
if if I if somebody told me that they wanted to pay me to shoot that many deer in a year, I would have to say no on a moral standpoint. That's how ridiculous the amount of money is that they're paying these organizations
hundreds of
to
thousands
go.
of dollars. Yeah.
And to my knowledge, and I'm not trying to speak out of school here, but to my knowledge, it is through means as well that would be illegal. If you were a regular hunter or a Missouri hunter,
Yep.
it would be 100% illegal to do. But meanwhile, local cities and stuff like that are paying these companies to come in and shoot those deer and make ridiculous amounts of money doing it. And
Yeah.
it's something that I don't think the majority of those taxpayers would agree with. Certainly no ethical hunter would agree with.
No.
And the part that tends to bother me the most about it is that's happening not just in that one city that we're talking about. It's happening in multiple cities across Missouri. And some of those same cities do not allow hunting, not even bow
Correct.
hunting. Even if you're a private landowner and you own 20, 30, 40, 150 acres, if it falls inside of city limits, you're not allowed to bow hunt your own land. And I got a kind of firsthand experience with this. This last season. I'm gonna try not to give away too much here, but there was an area where basically I had to go into the police department. I had to have a background check run on me. I had to go to the Missouri Department of Conservation. I didn't have to go there. The police department sent all my information to them. They do a background check on me as well for any game law violations. Obviously, comes back clean, and then I get issued a permit to be able to go hunt a piece of public land.
Yeah.
It's federally owned public land, but I had to go through all those hoops to be
Yeah.
able to have access to hunt it. And I asked the police department, hey, if I go door knock on a landowner near there, because there are some landowners that own 100, 200, 300 acres of land, can I, and it's fairly rural, and I go there, can I get permission from them to bow hunt? And I was told directly, no, you can't, because
No.
they're not allowed to bow hunt their land. As a matter of fact, if they want to, we need to send agents out and everything else to basically say yes or no, you're going to be allowed to hunt it this season based on how safe we determine the property to be to hunt. And so you have that level of kind of limiting access. And then on top of that, though, a lot of these same cities will pay a company to come in and kill those same deer with
Yeah.
firearms and out of season. And so
Yep.
that really
Over bait
kind
piles
of
and at nighttime and all
over
the
bait
different ways
piles
that
and
is
at night
illegal.
and everything all those
Yeah.
other things that, we're told that spread CWD or, it's illegal for this or that reason. And
Yep.
that when that all happened, it kind of opened my eyes to like, what's going on here? Because it's really bothersome that, ethical hunters that are doing things the right way by the book don't have the access even if you own the land. And so
Well,
that
the
becomes a
sad
whole
part
private
is,
land issue too.
and we could go on for hours, and I don't want to, but
Agreed. Yeah.
there there are opportunities for law-abiding citizens that are clean background, and I completely agree with all that. Like,
Yeah.
if you have game violations, you shouldn't be allowed additional access. Now, granted,
Yeah.
if it was you know, you killed an extra squirrel when you were a kid, or you didn't wear hunter orange one day. If it's some like simple, all laws are laws, and every infraction of the law is not simple. But if it is
Sure.
something that is very minute in the extreme breaking of the law, I guess is the best way to say it, then I can understand there being if it was 30 years ago and you've been clean ever since, okay, fine. Now, if you were
Yeah,
caught spotlighting animals and hunting over bait and doing all the crap that really is like egregious, in my opinion, and
sure.
again, these are my opinion, then no, you shouldn't be allowed to do those things. Um, and there's none of us that are perfect by any means. We've all either broke the law unknowingly or probably, did something accidental or whatever else. I mean, very few can honestly say, well, I've never done anything at all. Like
Yeah,
somebody's taken the hunter orange off, or you've went out into the woods, with pick your poison, something wrong. Either way. But
sure.
what sucks is that there are law abiding people that would go through the restraints to gain access, that would do it correctly, would do it safely, would not only provide for their families, but be willing to donate and pay money to pass that animal on to the Share the Harvest program, or,
Yeah,
um, Food for the Hungry, or whatever. And for me, that's the biggest withdrawal that I have with all of this, whether it's the city we're talking about, any of the municipalities that are doing this, or any of the public lands that are not allowed to be hunted on, but yet they have these special occasions where they do this management. I think it's crap. I just think that it's immoral, and it should be illegal because we own that ground. It's the same
yeah,
conversation that we can be having about the Western U.S. with all the stuff that's going on out there. Like those are our lands. It was our tax dollars. It was our, even if it was donated from a trust fund,
sure.
that piece of
Agreed.
property, it is our tax money
It was
now that
for a reason.
maintains
Yeah,
that land. And I feel that we should have access to it and we should be able to do it. And it's no different than, the special draw hunts or the things that go on. Like, by all means, like, I don't think everything should just be open to the public everywhere. But if it is a public owned land, it should at least be a part of a special draw system. It should be a special permissory regulation where you've got to go through all the stuff like you just talked about, something,
yeah,
because there's no reason when, if we rewind the times, we as the people and as the hunter and the taxpayer, we started the MDC. We funded them getting started. Most every state agency at some point was funded by the outdoorsmen and women, and the special interest groups got them somehow started, for the management of wildlife. And I think that that's the biggest thing that is missing, is now it's become a bureaucrat office that no longer really listens to the public. And I will say that it seems like on the surface that MDC has finally started to hear us, but
sure.
1 year, one change in regulation, one change in the season doesn't mean anything. It can be
Yeah.
a prank for all we know. And it could just be another way to get something else passed that they want, or whatever the
It,
case may
it
be.
all lined up pretty close to April Fools for your
Yeah,
credit there on that one. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah, but it's
Josh, to me, it was a thing of like, and I didn't care, right? Like, I went through, I did the background checks, and I paid my
yep,
fee to get that done. Like, to me, that sort of thing doesn't bother me. What more so bothers me
nope,
is, hey, why are we paying these companies to come out here and do this?
yep.
But at the same time, limiting access or saying we're not going to allow bow hunting in these certain areas. That to me rubs me the wrong way, because there are people that are willing to pay a fee and to go get these certain things done, and be able to go out there and do it the right way and do it in season, and be safe and ethical about it with a track record of doing so. Why not let those people do that? Because that's a
I
rare
mean, it's
exception
as
to where
simple as like,
I'd even give that city kudos. Like, at least you're giving the people access to do that, even if they have
yeah,
to jump through a couple extra hoops. Where there are some cities, in Missouri, where it's just a no across the board. Whether it's
yep.
public land, private land, regardless, you can own the land, you're not allowed to bow hunt. And that to me, and at the same hand, we're gonna say that we'll pay this company to come do it. That to me is a critical error where there's in my eyes, a better solution. And, to your credit too, like where you mentioned the share the harvest program. I mean, a lot of these bow hunters are willing to pay to make sure that everything goes to the right place and to make sure that everything's done right. Why not give them a chance to do it, and see what the results are?
Yep.
Maybe it cuts the harvest rate, 25% compared to what that company would have done, but maybe it also saved the taxpayers in that city $250,000 to get that job done. So is it, what are we
The
really missing
biggest
out
thing
on
that I
here?
have against it is it's the ethical fashion of how it is being managed.
Yeah,
And I say that from a standpoint of I don't care what your status is on or stance is on whether baiting should be allowed or not, whether you should be able to hunt over feeders, farm piles, whatever. I don't care about any of that. What I care about is that we have quote unquote professionals coming in using high powered silenced rifles with thermal imaging and or spotlights, all of which we deem to be an illegal act. And I don't care how professional they are, the chances of me injuring or causing damage to someone's property from an errant shot arrow is such a small piece versus that high powered rifle nicking a limb that they couldn't see in front of that animal through their night vision because you can't see all that if it doesn't have
yeah,
a heat signature. And that
yeah,
bullet traveling 2 to 4,000 feet per second goes through the wall of somebody's house.
yeah,
Now we can all say, yeah, but they're trained and they only do it a certain way and yada yada yada. And I just think there's a better way. I think there's a safer way, and I think there's a way that it impacts the community better because those that get involved, for instance, the stuff that's going on with the city now, look at the amount of people that have turned out to say we want to be involved. Look at the amount of people that have said we'll do everything we just talked about, background checks, we'll go through testing, we'll do efficiency tests to prove that we can shoot a bow accurately and efficiently. We'll do whatever. And oh, by the way, you give us a section of ground and we'll manage if it's 10 deer or 12 deer or 15. Like you tell
yeah,
us what needs to be harvested and we'll do it. And either we can keep the meat that will feed us and our families and our friends, or, I'll pay like I even told them, like, I'll give 40 or $50 an animal to give it to feed the hunger or
have it
feed the
donated.
harvest or share the harvest,
Yeah,
something of that nation, that opportunity too, which then gives back. And then what's really disparaging is when you look at the numbers and you get to read the statistics. And that for me, being a gear junkie and being a OCD type person, like I want to see the statistics.
yeah.
And when you look at the buck to doe ratio of what's been harvested in these
Oh,
areas, these are not guys paid to go manage animals. These are trophy
yeah,
hunters that are going out there and using a means to an end to kill
yeah,
stuff that the rest of us would pay to go do. And
yeah,
instead, they're getting paid thousands of dollars to go shoot this. And then when you
to
look
go
at the
do it.
numbers, you kill all the bucks you want. If you don't get rid of the does, you never impact the population.
Yeah, that
And
was
all they're
actually
doing is
hurtful
trophy
to
hunting.
see some of those
Oh,
numbers. That was brutal. And I'll say this, bow hunters in particular, hunters in general, but bow hunters in particular. You're talking about a group of guys that regardless of, media perception or general public perception or whatever else, people that are really willing to take their days off, to take their vacation times, take their sick days and contribute it towards either their pursuit or the betterment of it. It's unbelievable. Like you said, the amount of guys that came out and said that I'm willing to do these background checks or pay these fees or to pay out of my own pocket for the animals harvested to go to share the harvest or whatever else. I mean, people that are really willing to do whatever they can for the betterment of the herd in the state.
Yeah.
And I'll go as far as to say this, kind of the whole like tag and out of state non resident situation. If being more like Kansas and going to a $1 state, whether you're a resident or non resident, is going to improve the herd, I'm all about it. If I only
Yep.
get one buck tag in Missouri the rest of my life, I'm okay with that. If
Yep.
my non-resident tag cost goes from $20 to $40, man, that stings, and I hope it doesn't affect anybody getting out in the field. But I think for most of these guys that, hunt and they really love it and they do it all the time, an extra $20, they're okay with that if it's going to go towards bettering the public lands, bettering the access, bettering the herd, doing what needs to be done. But I feel like we've had a storm lately of, um, you know, being the cheapest state to go to, and uh, some of the management tactics. We went away with the 4-point restriction in pretty much every county. It's right. There's like 2 or 3 left, maybe. It's every
Yeah.
county's gone now. There's no antler restriction in the state anymore. And it's like, man, if they brought it back and they said 4-point restriction in every county, and on top of that, you only get one buck tag, and now it costs you $40. Personally, I might get some flack for that. I'm okay with it if it means the herd's gonna be better. Like and it means we're gonna manage things more and we're gonna take care of some of these issues. Wherever it gets us to that point, I'm in support of it. I'd say 90% of the time, excluding some crazy scenarios. But I'm okay with a lot of that stuff because you look at some of the best states in the country that currently people are ranking them higher than Missouri. They're $1 states, and maybe their current resident tags are a little bit higher. So wherever it gets us there, let's get there. But we're on a pattern lately of at least some of these cities, municipalities, and some regulations right now. We're kind of stomping out access for a lot of these people to hunt close to home or to be able to get into better quality.
And I can understand MDC's position
Sure.
from when you look at, and I'm going to take a stab without looking it up on my phone, but when you look at deer population across these states, right? Um, when you look at Missouri, Missouri's got, prior to the CWD kill off this year and all the rest of the stuff, 1.2 to 1.4 million, somewhere in that range. When you look at Kansas or Iowa, they're 6 to 800,000. So they're half of the population. So I can understand them going, well, there's a reason they're a $1 state. Okay.
Yeah.
When you start to look at total amount of huntable acres or total amount of um, square, however you want to say, total acres per state. Iowa's smaller than Missouri, but Missouri is 2/3 the size of Kansas. So I get it that there's a higher number, more densely populated. But then when you start to watch people like Jack Houston and some of these guys that are doing deer studies, and you start paying attention to where are the masses of these numbers located, when you look at Columbia, St. Louis, Kansas City, Springfield, Cape Girardeau, and you start picking apart all the major metros,
Metro areas.
that's where the bulk of these populations are. Yes, when you divide the state in half, there's a higher dense population north than there is south, supposedly. But there's also more agriculture north than there is south. So uh, I guess my question becomes, if we need to manage the deer herd better and the population is so one-sided, the buck to doe ratio is so out of balance, why are we not going to a 1 buck um, tag system and forcing people to either earn that tag by killing a doe first or killing more does and to get a second buck tag. Like if we want to keep that
Sure.
second buck tag,
Sure.
then why not allow them? On top of that, if this is such a population control issue, why am I forced to only kill one buck prior to gun season?
Yeah.
If you want me to
Yeah.
manage the population and you want me to kill more deer, why can't I kill both of them? Why can't I kill both of them in the same day?
It would have been when I was young, but I might just barely be old enough to remember that Missouri used to be a 3 buck state, if I'm not mistaken.
Two with a bow
And
and one with a gun.
2 with a bow, 1 with a gun, and you could have killed them both before rifle season at one point, I do believe, if you wanted to.
I don't remember that. I want to say ever since I started bow
It
hunting,
would have been when
it
I was
was
real young, so I
always
could have it wrong, but we were a
yeah.
3 buck state. I know that.
I want to
Um,
say it was one before, one after, and one during gun season. Or
yeah,
you can kill gun and two after gun season.
alternative season or whatever else. Yeah, yeah, you
And
can
my
still
biggest
use that.
that's been my biggest question is they say, well, we need the breeding population. We don't want you to kill them all prior to the rut. Well, if you're needing to kill the deer anyway, why does it matter when I kill them?
Yeah,
Why can't I kill
yeah,
all my deer prior to gun season? Like there's just controversy to the way things are managed. We can go on about this for
yeah,
hours.
absolutely. No, it's there's a lot to it. And I mean, it all comes down to just some of the backward stuff I've seen where I'm like, I don't get why this is this way, but not this way. And it's above my pay grade, right? I
Yeah,
don't have all the information that the biologists or whoever else does in the department, but there's some stuff that I'm like, man, is there a better way for us to kind of look into this?
it's just hard
But
when you can see it on the surface and go, this doesn't make sense. This
yeah,
makes sense, or this would be a much easier. Just seems like it would be a better uh, path forward. Why they're not considered, and more importantly, how come we're not? We vote on everything in the country.
yeah,
Why are we not, as hunters, given an opportunity to vote for this? And they will say, "Well, we give you an opportunity to come to, meetings in Jeff City or meetings in this
public
county."
statements or
It doesn't do a dang bit of good if we showed up to every single one of them, unless you're going to put it on a docket that allows us to actually have a majority vote to say yay or nay to a change. All you're doing is listening to the public and giving them a voice. But in 20, 30 years of hunting, I've never seen the public's voice that seems to be unanimous ever overturn the direction of the bureaucrats in charge to make a decision. So
yeah,
it is what it is. At
yeah,
this point, we have to find a way to support it the best we can. We have to find a way to be present the best we can. And much like going out of state, we just got to abide by what's out there and make the best of the situation because until we can have better control over it, that's really the only chance you have. And there's no point in diminishing the joy of the hunt or the love for it. And I think that that's the problem with a lot of this is it's so easy for people to get discouraged based on difference of opinion and based on what we want versus what the bureaucracy does. You just got to make the best of it with what rules you're given, and at the end of the day, go make memories and have fun doing it.
agreed. And I love the way you answered that, Josh. And that's kind of why I brought this stuff up to you is because to be completely honest, all the regulation change, stuff like that, I pick up my pamphlet at the beginning of every season, see if anything changed that applies to me, and I move on about my business and just follow that. I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, I used to get the wildlife code books all the time. Dude, I haven't picked up one of those in a while because I feel like it changes every year. So I'm like, all right, well, we're gonna read the pamphlet, see what changed, and keep chugging.
Yep.
But and that's kind of why I brought this stuff up to you is because lately this last year or two has been really the start of me. I'm 25 now, so this is the start of me kind of really paying attention to some of this stuff and how it changes and what that means long term. I never really thought about this stuff that way, so I've been
Yeah.
a lot more interested in it. So good education for me there, and hopefully for some of the guys listening too. But I want to ask you because we brought it up, man. I want to circle back to gear, but this you brought up
Yeah.
a fantastic point earlier about um, Missouri's diversity in landscape.
Yep.
Go ahead and whop me over the head if I'm wrong. Man, I've talked about it on the podcast. I've talked about it with, most of the people I know when we get to talking about big bucks and why they are the way they are. And one of the most, obviously, the creatures that fascinate us and consume all of our brain.
Yeah.
I cannot get the heck away from river bottoms. I don't care where I am in the state. If there's a river bottom or a big mass of running water, to me that just screams big buck territory. And I've got my theories on this. I want you to chime in and let me know if you recognize any of it or maybe agree or disagree. This is my belief, and I'll get torn apart by my buddies and I'll get torn apart by whoever's listening. That's fine. But my personal belief is that river bottom type habitat, first off, super thick. Number one, great for cover. Number two, river bottom habitats generally floodplain, which means the soil is super, super rich. You're growing very, very vibrant and lush undergrowth. So great, great feed for the deer. Generally, that river bottom type habitat has a lot of agriculture around it because the soil is so rich. And I think that that just makes this perfect little gathering of the right resources to grow those bucks we're looking for. The other caveat I put to this is if there's a railroad that runs anywhere near that river bottom, I have a personal superstition that railroad and running water, whether it's a creek or a river, equals big buck. And my personal idea behind this that I've gotten through some experiences is railroads are like a wind funnel that just the wind hits those railroads and the rocks that build up right before the railroad and they built the tracks in. And I've seen big bucks bedding right up against those rocks, right up by the railroad where there's a huge cutout. And I think they're bedding against that stuff because the wind blows right into it and right down the tracks. So those are kind of my theories. Is that something you've noticed that you've seen? Do you agree, disagree? Let me know your thoughts on kind of the habitat that those big bucks tend to favor.
So there's two things that I think you left out on the habitat for river bucks. Um, First off, everything grows near water, right? Everything has to be there.
Yeah.
Um, it is probably the most, uh, and I don't even know the best terminology, but undroughted area because there's always some way to draw moisture. So I think when you look at lakes or you look at rivers or big streams, there's always vegetation. So to your point of being the most diverse and thick and all the rest of that, yes. But what does the water create? It creates a hard line that they cannot get in timber. They cannot get in um, crop ground. It creates an unnavigable by foot hard line for the hunter. So that does two things. One, um, if you've ever been near water and hunted it, the thermal draw that creates near water
Yep.
gives them the perfect barrier that A, if you're coming off the water to chase me, you're making noise. I don't care if you're paddling a boat. I don't care if you're swimming in a steel suit. You are
Yep.
making some type of noise
For
that
sure.
is, if you've ever lived near water, and I have a creek out my back door, if you just meditate for 5 minutes and go sit outside, that water, whether it's running or still, makes the same noise all day long. So when that noise changes, it's easily alertable to that animal. As well as if you're away from the water, your thermals, morning and evening, are going to pull to that water, which eliminates your access or minimizes your access from the land to that edge. So
Yep.
that creates a tremendous barrier for them. It makes it easier, in my opinion, for them to live and survive. Um, it also makes them somewhat a little more killable because I think that they get very comfortable relying on their ears and nose. And to your point, the thickness makes it hard to see. So if you can play the wind correctly and you can figure out an animal's typical bedding, which if you look at topos and river bottoms, they're pretty much flat. And anywhere that there is a slight change in topography, there will always be a bedding area right there around it somewhere. So it makes it a
Sure.
little simpler to hunt from a standpoint of where you think they're going to be, but it also still makes it extremely difficult because it's a double edged sword. I think they could be a little more killable because they're going to be a little more predictable, but at the same time, they're going to be a little easier to survive because you have two of the three major things not in your favor. Um, the other part is the tracks. I think that anyone that I have known that has worked on the railroad, anybody that has spent time near railroad tracks will tell you, "Oh my God, I was running the train from such and such and such and such. And man, starting in October, we see giants." Or, I should send you pictures of all the deer that we've hit with the train. And oh my God, we've killed some, you know, Pope and Young, Boone and Crockett, Booners, as everybody calls it, deer. We hit it with the train, whatever else. So I believe that there is some facts or some truth to deer being near the tracks. I also think that there's something to we talk to people about how do I say this, the electromagnetic field that a human puts off, right?
Mm. Yeah,
I
I
feel
believe
like
that's what Hex is based around, isn't it? Hex
correct.
camo? Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
If you've ever been around a track, and I used to rabbit hunt a bunch, there are noises, there are things that you can be on one end of the track, have someone on the other, and just walk the rail or walk the rocks. And if you vibrate or make noise, it travels down that steel track for a long way. And
absolutely.
so I think that from a standpoint, much like the water, a railroad track does exactly what you said from a wind funnel standpoint. But I also think that it carries a noise to it that makes it makes their perception of fear uh, high probability of reality. I don't know exactly how to say it, but if you make noise on that track and you're far enough away, they're still going to feel it. They're still going to hear it. It's going to resonate to them that there's something coming because
Sure.
you can't step up on the bank of a railroad track, no matter what riprap or what rock, that it
Yeah.
doesn't make some type of a clink when you step onto that. And
Yep.
you can be 200 yards down that railroad track. And if it's a calm day and you step up there, I can hear it on the track from that far away. And so
Hundreds of yards away.
I think it creates another opportunity where two of the three, whether it's scent or sound, are really against you hunting near a railroad track. So if you are able to hunt it without ever traversing it, I think your likelihood is much better to be on those animals if you can play the wind, get in, whatever. But I think that they utilize those two senses in that area to their advantage. And I mean, I'm thinking of a friend of mine's property in Cape Girardeau that is right on the river chute and has a railroad track 150 yards from that river chute. And that specific 200-acre or half-mile section right there has some of the biggest deer in that county that I've ever seen. Like
Yeah.
they funnel, they stay there. And I think it goes back to your first point is that the diversity of habitat near railroad tracks and um, water, they got to keep those railroad tracks clean. So everything stays cut back. It's always the same. And yet everything around it grows up differently because of the way that it's undisturbed. The same that it does on a riverbank. If the river's not cutting out the bank or it's not flooding and changing that habitat, um, it's kind of like your living room. If you don't ever rearrange or, if your wife never um, redecorates the living room, and it always looks the same. When you come in home, the first time she does, you notice it. Well, the same can be said
Yeah.
for a railroad
Yeah.
track or a river bottom. It really never changes. It kind of stays the same. And if there ever is a big change, you're going to notice it. And I think that that's an aspect that keeps deer big growing in there. You're correct. I think the soil in a river bottom is just unbelievable. And there's always food. Like when we think about food plots, we think about, um, agriculture and everything else. You get in a river bottom from cuckleburs to greenbrier to um, just foliage that's growing on the ground from the flood, which wipes out. I mean, water can do the same to an area that fire does to a field. And it
Yes.
allows for fresh growth, new growth. It allows for stuff to just constantly be in a perfect cycle without human interaction so that there's always food, there's always water. And because of that, there's dense habitat for them to survive. And it just creates a perfect storm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you answered that way because that just kind of reasserts some of my delusional thinking of always wanting to hunt that. But it's a pattern that's worked for me. Needed your thoughts on that, but I'm gonna cut it and we're gonna circle back to gear. I got a question that I think is super super important here, because I've actually had a couple guys ask me this and I haven't had a good answer yet. So for you, you've always got the inside edge on the new stuff coming out, new gear, et cetera, et cetera. One question I've had posed to me that I kind of had to hesitate and didn't have a good answer for was guys will say, especially with most guys online shopping, stuff like that, ordering in their gear, getting it shipped to them, is how do you know that this thing that everybody says is great or that everybody loves or whatever, how do I know it's going to work for me before I get it in? And like you mentioned, a lot of the gear that's made out there maybe isn't specifically made for you or someone of your size and mind. So how do those guys make sure that the gear is working for them? And one of the things that immediately came to mind for me was sticks, right? Like sticks are great for some guys, not great for others. I personally think the new Latitude sticks, off the Tree Sticks design are going to be great for most guys. But going into getting a new saddle or doing stuff like that, yeah, some shops might have what you're looking for and let you pull it out of the box and tie it off to a post or something and see how it works. But you're limited to what your local shop has got in stock. So how can you be sure, or how do you make sure maybe before ordering something in that like, yeah, I think this is going to be right for me, or what's that process look like for guys?
So the first thing I would say is that's probably the hardest sell for somebody when we're talking mobile, right? Because essentially we're looking at um, morning, evening, midday setup, tear down, constantly have it with you. And I think that that's why um, one of my good buddies in Tennessee, um, uh, in the last 2 years, he's really opened his mind to um, whether it's a long wolf or a saddle setup or some type of a mobile gear. He's opened his mind to it. And immediately after purchasing it, he sold it and he goes back to his climber. And where I think the problem in the industry is the cost of ownership and the availability is the number one deterrent to new people stepping into that form of hunting. Because it's easy to go throw a ladder stand up. It's easy to go put a set of sticks on a tree stand up. It's easy to take a hunting stool and sit out by a tree. It's easy to just go sit on the ground and try it. What's not easy is the fiddle factor, and that is buying new gear, spending enough time with it to understand it so that when you go deploy that system in the woods, you're familiar enough and comfortable enough that you don't lose the drive to do so.
Yeah.
Because when I started saddle hunting, um, one of my good buddies was big into it, and he was moving between brands and kind of was helping me get started. He's 6'2" and weighs 185 pounds and is flexible and, like Hunter, can climb freaking 40 foot in a tree with 3 sticks. I'm not. I mean, I'm flexible and I'm strong enough to do my own thing, but I'm just not comfortable with that. So
Yeah.
finding a system was extremely tough. And so at that point in time, I would tell you 8 years ago, information was not as readily available as it is today. So for the new guy today, spend, if you're considering getting into mobile hunting, spend the season when you're hunting and the days are short and the nights are long and most people don't have anything to do after 6 o'clock because it's dark. Spend that time when you're outside of hunting researching, reading, watching YouTube videos, talking to your friends, whatever, and figure out what you think you want. And don't base it off of, I've told you this, I think the biggest thing in the industry right now is integrity and the loss of
Yeah.
integrity. Um, don't base it on some influencer that is getting paid or given free product to promote something. Pay attention to the guys that, for lack of better terms, probably have the worst looking channel out there because they're probably the realest. Pay attention to the guys that have multiple brands on their channel that they're doing reviews on. Look for
Absolutely.
that independent review that's not focused behind what a brand is telling them to promote. And then we all have social media, or the majority of us do. Look at the people that are consistently using it, posting about it, um, showcasing themselves hunting, whatever the case may be. And then when season's over, if you can go find whether it's a teach and train or a lone wolf trail or somebody that's doing some type of a mobile hunting deal or any of the expos that have the product in the late winter, early spring, go see it, go feel it, go get an understanding, and then come spring, make your purchase. And don't, and I'm the guy that's like, don't just go all in and go buy everything at once. Go buy the saddle because you probably have a tree stand, you probably have a platform, you probably have a climber, you've got something. If not, you got a ladder that you can climb on next to a tree and you can figure out, put a 2x4 on the tree if you got to screw it or nail it to it. Don't burn me down for putting a hole in the tree. But
Yeah.
you've got a way to attempt it. And until you find the saddle that works for you or find the harness that works for you, whatever all the rest of it, they're a dime a dozen. There's
Sure.
100 different options. There's 100 different ways you can do it. There are some that will obviously fit you better. There are some that will fit your feet better. There are some that will fit your style better. But if you can't be comfortable in the saddle or the harness, none of the rest of it matters. And
Agreed.
then spend time with it. I am the pony of this whole discussion because when I started saddle hunting, the very first time I got in my saddle was the very first time that I went and hung in a tree and tried to kill a deer. And the fiddle factor took me 40 minutes to get set up and be somewhat comfortable. I think that I danced around like a freaking ballerina for 2 hours because I was uncomfortable. I didn't even know how to hook uh my ascender and my carabiner and my rope together. That's how ridiculous I was the first time I went out. I literally was putting things together at the base of the tree to go up the tree.
Some assembly required in the field.
And I learned my lesson. And
Yeah.
what I did different is the next spring and summer, I spent time in it. I got out. I mean, you've seen my garage, you've seen my basement, you know how much gear and crap I have. And I have people come over all the time through the season, postseason, preseason, summer, and we're climbing trees in the backyards. We're fine tuning our stuff. We're working on things. We're making um, adjustments to it, manipulating systems, all the rest of that stuff. Because the worst thing you can do is have that fiddle factor once you get out there to go hunt.
For
And
sure.
if you will spend the time with it, you'll get to learn it to where when you get out there, um, and I bring it up because one of the most memorable hunts that I've ever had was the December that I went to. I had a special draw up near St. Louis, and I had just killed the biggest buck of my life. And I went in to go hunt on this special draw, and it was like the second to last day of season. And my buddy and I went in to hunt, and I could not for the life of me pick a tree. I literally went to this tree and was like, I want to be in that one. And I get to that tree and I turn around and I'm like, no, I need to be in that one. And I get to that tree and I'm like, no, because my thermals are going to draw here and I need to be. And I was like, oh my God. And I put sticks on a tree 3 times,
Yep,
got
I've
all the
been
way to the
there.
top and took it down and was like, nope, this isn't right. And I finally got to a point, I went back to the very first tree that I had stuck a stick on. And I was like, screw it. I've only got an hour and 45 minutes to dark. I've got to get up a tree. And why I say it's so important to be so familiar with your gear and know what you can and can't do. I got 2 sticks up and turned around to grab the next stick off my pouch and looked, and here come a 130-inch deer right to me. Now I'm standing on the side of a tree, cinched in with my lineman's belt, no platform, my feet on the top of the stick, and my bow on the ground. And I was like, I got to kill this deer this way. There's no way that I can't move. I can't finish. So I'm literally pulling my bow up the tree, watching this deer, not harnessed in, but in my lineman's belt, leaned back and sucked up as tight to the tree as I can. I got my bow all the way up, got my rope undone, arrow nocked, got my release on. And right as I like moved my hands over to get ready to draw my bow, that deer goes and looks right up at me. And I mean, it was like 5 seconds, and I've shot this deer at 10 yards, and I'm not even set up yet. And I
Yeah.
say all that to say this: had I not been comfortable, had I not spent all the time with my gear that I had I not understood how to manipulate my body in a saddle without being tethered off, do I recommend that? No. But if you got a deer coming in and that's the only opportunity you're going to get, everybody's going to do the same thing.
Yep.
And literally, when that deer ran off, I was thankful because I was this close to being able to seal the deal. But had I had the fiddle factor of things, I'd have never been comfortable enough to do that.
Not a
At
chance.
that point, I tethered in, I sat down in my saddle and cried for the next 5 minutes because I was so frustrated that if I just got that tree to begin with, I would have killed that deer because I would have been set up. But it's just to your question and to the point of this whole ramble, you got to spend time with your gear. And I think
Yeah.
it starts with the harness or the saddle. The rest of it, you're going to change platforms. You're going to do the run and gun, .5 small tree stand type thing. You're going to do the hybrid hunting. You're going to think that you need something bigger than what you actually do. You're going to go through all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if the saddle, quote unquote, the method 3 is what you put around your body, you're going to be comfortable. You're going to have fun, and then you can figure out the rest of it. Because if you're on a private land, like I got sticks presets on private land, and I carry my platform and I move tree to tree because I've already got half the work done for me. If
Yep.
I'm running and gunning on public land, I'm probably carrying a 1 stick or a 2 stick with a platform that's on top of the stick, and I'm not packing much in. There's times that I only 1 stick. I mean, there are times that I have all 4 setups that I normally use in the bed of my truck. And depending on where I end up at and deciding where I think I'm going depends on what I pull out of it. So there's only one consistent piece of that whole setup, and that's my saddle or my harness. And that's why I say find that first, spend time with it once you get it to make sure you understand how to find comfort in it. Because if you're not comfortable, you won't sit still. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, that's what matters. You got to be comfortable. So hope that answers what you're asking.
It for sure did. You hit on some really key points there of like, getting some of the more critical things first. Get that good saddle, get that good, a piece of gear that's going to keep you, whether it's the harness or the saddle or whatever, it's going to keep you comfortable. And from there, you can play with everything else. And that's a great point there too, because I went through the process of buying the cheapest everything I could get my hands on. I remember my first saddle ever. I only got it because I won it in a raffle. Like that's the way I was playing it. And it
Heck
was
yeah.
from a reputable brand. But that was what I was running. And then I picked up the cheapest sticks on the market, cheapest platform, and to no end I had trouble.
Yep.
And then, at some point or another, I was like, okay, enough is enough. And I went the direction of Lone Wolf sticks and Latitude saddle and platform, and I had my probably best season on public land and my easiest, most comfortable hunting season of my life since I decided to do that. And a lot of it was from, like you said, talking to friends, getting out to meet people that have run this stuff. Luckily enough, got a great local pro shop, Denny Dennis over there, that let me try on all the Latitude saddles and all that stuff to figure out what works for me, and really kind of building it piece by piece. I didn't go out and buy all the stuff at once, because to your point, it's freaking expensive. If you really
It
want to get
is.
into
It is.
quality mobile hunting gear, it's expensive and it's hard to know what's going to be the right choice, because you don't want to spend that much money and then go and sell it used or something on marketplace because it doesn't work for you and you just wasted your time and your money. So building it piece by piece like that can oftentimes be your best option, because that's what gets you to breaking up those purchases a little bit and figuring it out slowly and through trial and error, or through trusted, reliable sources, reviews, whatever. People that have no skin in the game one way or another, that are going out
Right.
there and they're saying like, "Hey, I think this sucks and I think this is great." And you can watch those same videos or read those same reviews and apply your own critical thinking of, okay, well, maybe the thing that he doesn't like isn't really an issue for me, or maybe it is, whether it's
Right.
weight or whatever else. Like right now, obviously in mobile hunting, the lighter the better for everything.
Oh
For a
yeah.
lot of guys, maybe you're like, I really don't care about the extra 6 ounces, and then you're able to sit there and kind of make your own decision. So I
Yep.
love the way you answered that. You hit the nail on the head, and you gave me a good direction to point those guys in. So I appreciate it. But I gotta hit on this. I know we've been going for a while, but this is super, super topical for me, and I love it. Uh, every time I watch your social media, and all your stuff's gonna be linked below for anybody watching. I think since I started following you, I've probably gained about 35 pounds. At least I'm gonna blame you for it. All right, I'm gonna blame you for my weight gain.
Rightfully
But
so.
man, you have got some of the best stories and posts about fantastic meals you're making out of your wild game meat. Now, I'm a super simple guy. Backstraps get turned into steaks. I will take the ground and make tacos and do stuff like that. And then everything else gets turned into summer sausage and jerky. You have had me second guessing the way I handle all of my processing ever since. One post stuck out in particular. I never get it out of my head. I'm gonna make you make it for me one of these times, maybe next season. You did a pulled deer shoulder. I think you made tacos or something. It was
Yep.
fantastic. It looked incredible. So when did that start for you, figuring out how to just pull off these wicked recipes and make this game meat? I mean, obviously, for anybody that's, just listening, Josh has got a wall of deer behind him. He's got a 200-inch buck sitting over his shoulder. He's out there absolutely putting the hurting on the deer. So he's got plenty of game meat, I imagine, to practice with. But how'd you get started on kind of thinking outside the box and making these awesome recipes?
So it's a twofold answer. One, I can't take full credit for everything. I've got a good buddy of mine, um, goes by Hunt Fit Ted is his YouTube handle. Um, he's very much I call him a health nut, but he's just a guy that tries to use everything. And we spent a lot of time hunting together, and we spent a lot of time cooking together. And so some of the wild recipes are my spin of some of the stuff that I've watched him do or been a part of. But for the most part, I grew up like the typical Midwesterner, and We fried a lot of deer meat. We fried our
Yeah.
fish,
Oh
and the
yeah.
rest of it we either ground or, to your point, we turned it into sausage. And to much of what you said earlier, when I was in college, I was a broke college kid, and I was living on, you know, when I was playing baseball, it was whatever meal plan that the school gave us that I could eat locally, or when I lived in apartments, we had to make our own food. And so um, I would say that that's where my eagerness to figure out what I can do with every cut of meat kind of started. And I'll share a quick story of kind of what that led me down. But one night I'd went hunting over the weekend, and I'd shot a doe, and I brought the doe home, and I field dressed it. I butchered it. I took care of everything on the tailgate of my truck in the parking lot where I lived at this college campus. And you know, it was all baseball players, basketball players, volleyball players, and then what we call GDIs. And I'll let you figure out what that terminology stands for. Um, but everybody's standing around watching me do this, like, what is this redneck doing? And I said, y'all want to have dinner? And they're like, you want to cook this? I'm like, yeah. So I, being the nice guy I am, took the inner loins, the back straps, and then I cut the main hams out of the rear hindquarters. And I did it the old traditional way: flour, egg wash, salt, pepper, um, little paprika, some other stuff. And then, I fried it up. Well, there's 25, 26 guys on the baseball team. Um, there's a handful of girls that lived there, played volleyball, some guys upstairs played basketball. So we're in this small apartment, and there's 30 people in this apartment, and they're all eating,
Yeah.
and I'm making mashed potatoes and all this stuff. And I turn around when I get done with the last batch, and the two pieces that I kept were the only two pieces that I got to eat. The entire group of people ate everything. And I was ticked because I'm like, I gave the back straps, the inner loins, like I
All
gave
the
you
best
guys some
stuff.
prime cuts,
Yeah.
right? So it got me thinking. I was like, how am I going to get these guys back? So I went bow hunting with my roommate the next weekend on a piece of property we had, and um, I shot a coon that had come by,
Oh
and I
boy.
took that coon and I skinned it out, and I went and did everything that needed to be done, and it was season, and so I shot this coon, and I field dressed it, and I didn't tell anybody what I had, and I said, hey guys, I got another deer. You guys want to come have dinner? And so I cut that coon meat up, and I fed all of them that coon meat, and they were like, man, this is quite different. It's a little more, different flavors, a little tougher. Blah, blah, blah. I just went on, and I literally got to the end, and one one of the guys goes, "Man, what is up with this deer?" He's like, "I've ate a lot of the deer you've cooked before." He's like, "This is obviously weird." And I didn't have a cell phone with pictures and all the rest of that at the time. Otherwise, I would have done it a little different. And I said, "Well, boys, you guys just had trash panda for dinner." And they said, "We had what?" I said, "Trash panda." What the heck's a trash panda? And I said, "A raccoon." And I kid you not, two of the guys jumped up, ran out the front door, and went to throwing up in the front lawn of this apartment. And they're like, "You fed us, coon." And I said, "Next time that I come back here and I bring prime cuts of deer meat and feed you guys, you got to make sure the cook's got something to eat." And so at that point, I was like, well, hell, if I could cook coon and make something that,
Edible.
a lot of
Yeah.
people eat it, but I can make it edible, and most people didn't know the difference. um, what can I do with some of this that, is not traditional? And so I watched Ted smoke some deer shoulders before and kind of do his spin on Korean tacos and some other stuff. And so it really just got me to thinking that it's like, why am I wasting or spending all this extra money and making sausage and all the rest of it? And don't get me wrong, like I love all that too, and I
Yeah.
I make my own. I've done dry aged sausage. I've done a lot of different variations, but I was like, this is such good meat and such healthy protein. Why am I going to go add salts and preservatives and all this junk to stuff that I don't need when I can just learn how to break it down? And so, in the last few years, if you've ever watched the Bearded Butchers or the guys with meat,
Sure.
the brand that makes the grinders and all that, they do a really good job on the cow, and they do a really good job on venison, showing you how to break down all the muscle groups. And so I just really started playing to where now, like when I break them down, I've got tri-tip, I've got ham, I've got all the different muscle groups broken down, and I freeze them all separately. And that way, when my wife and I or family members or friends come over and we decide like what we're gonna do, then I've got those meats cut apart and it's not just back straps or it's not just ham or it's not just tenderloins, like it's all the variations. And then I just I'm not a guy that is a recipe guy. So a lot of the stuff you've seen me cook might have been the first time that I've done it. It might have been the 30th time that I've done it. They're never exactly the same because sometimes I'll add different seasonings or I'll inject one time and I don't the next. But a Blackstone, a Traeger, and a cast iron skillet, and about 2 hours to 12 hours of my time, and I can whip you up something pretty fantastic.
That's awesome, man. I love that story too. That's I bet they were a lot more kind going forward with what they left on the plate or what they
Oh,
left
they
on
didn't even
of
come
what
back
you
and
made.
ask for
Yeah.
dinner next time. So
They just
it
didn't
was worth
trust you
it.
again. Like, no way, he's
No,
crazy.
no,
Oh, that's hilarious, man. Yeah,
it
I
was
mean,
worth
I
it.
love that because it's something that I want to try some of that stuff out. And man, when I see you doing it, I'm like, golly, I wish I would have thought of that. And don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
like I love the summer sausage, and I'm on a huge kick with it right now. I've got a bunch frozen, and I've been pulling a stick out, cutting it real thin, getting some like way overpriced Gouda cheese and slicing that thin with some Triscuits and enjoying the heck out of it. But
Oh yeah.
a lot of those cuts can be used more towards what you're talking about and some of the stuff that you've done. So definitely want to start experimenting with it a little bit. But
Well, and for me,
Josh,
it's like
man,
we're spending all this money to go hunt and we buy all this gear and everything else that's, as much as I love beef, and don't get me wrong, I love a steak or a filet or
yeah,
ground burger as much as anybody. It's like we're already spending the time to do this, and we got a lot healthier protein in the venison than anything that you're going to buy in the store unless it's grass fed or you know who raised it. So it's
yeah,
like, why not learn how to utilize that meat more? I mean, to the point that, like with turkeys and stuff, like we cut some of the back meat out, the breast, all the legs. We'll do the same thing and we'll render them down. I mean, I went as far as like during groundhog season, I will actually hunt groundhogs. And I will tell you right now that there is some of the best table fare to make tacos of is a groundhog. Because
oh
if you think
boy, I
about it,
now I've got to try it.
if you think about it, it's a herbivore. It's not
Yeah,
eating junk. It's not, it's not like a coyote or a bobcat that's eating food. And don't get me wrong, a bobcat actually tastes pretty decent too. But coyotes, coons, no. But a groundhog is, it's just like a big squirrel, and they're eating
yeah,
a lot of vegetation. They're eating beans. They're a lot of browse, and it will surprise you. Like you clean them right, you make sure you get any of the fat nodules and stuff out of the meat, and you can almost throw that whole thing on a smoker and render it down, and then freeze. Shred it all up and freeze bags of that stuff, and then have ready to go taco meat and stuff. And it'll surprise you how good it actually is.
that's freaking awesome, man. And I
Yeah.
hope you do take some of the turkey killed this spring and do some stories or do a video on some of them because man, those are some of my favorite posts from you. Is when you took us through the deer shoulder and stuff like that on your Instagram at one point and a couple
Yep.
others. And I'm always sitting there taking notes whenever I see them. So definitely keep that stuff up, man, because I love that. I love seeing it,
Well,
and it
pay
gives me
attention this
ideas.
next
And
couple days. We're getting ready to smoke my daughter's chicken legs, and then I'm going to do an injected turkey breast here this week as well. So
That's all. I've got turkey breast frozen in the freezer right now from my bird earlier this season, so I'll be
Heck yeah.
waiting for it, man. But Josh, man, I could talk to you for hours. We're gonna have to do it again sometime. I appreciate you
You
coming
bet.
on. For those of you that are intrigued by all the stuff he's got going on, the recipes, the bow hunting league, his hunting adventures, he's an absolute killer. All of his information is going to be down in the description. So, Josh, buddy, thanks again for coming on, and we'll do it again sometime. All right.
Hey, man, I appreciate you. And I love what you're doing with the non-typical project. I wish you the best of luck, man, and look forward to doing it again soon.
I appreciate it, buddy. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
You bet, man. Thank you.
I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of the Non-Typical Project. If you're interested in our special guest, their information, as well as my information and our sponsors' links, are all going to be down in the description below. If you guys could, be sure to leave a positive review for the podcast, as it helps me out a ton. If you got any questions or anything that caught your eye during this podcast, you can leave a comment down below, and I'll be sure to get back to you as quick as possible. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys next week.